Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we, take a whole stack of sources and really pull out the key insights for you. Today, we're doing something maybe a little different. We're going back, way back to an ancient wisdom text. But the question it tackles, surprisingly relevant. How do you handle desire, information, all that stuff without getting totally bogged down? Yeah, our source today is from the Uppalavaṇṇātherīvatthu. It's an old commentary linked to the Dhammapada, stemming from a story about a nun, Uppalavaṇṇātherī, and the teaching the Buddha gave. So our mission, if you will, is to see how this ancient wisdom gives us a lens on managing desires, maybe even managing that feeling of being overwhelmed, like with information overload today. Can you really live life, experience pleasure even, without getting, stuck? Okay, let's unpack this. So picture this. A big group of monks gathered in a Dharma hall. And they're not just sitting silently, they're actually having this very human discussion, debating a pretty deep spiritual point. And the specific question they landed on was, it's fascinating.
Do arahants, these are the fully enlightened ones, right, who supposedly destroyed all defilements, do they still enjoy sense pleasures? Pam! Their reasoning. It sounds pretty logical even to us now. They were saying something like, look, they're not, dead trees or empty anthills. They've got living bodies, flesh. So why wouldn't they enjoy things? It's a really relatable kind of skepticism, isn't it?
It really is. And what's fascinating there is how it highlights that fundamental tension, between the physical reality of having a body and this idea of a completely purified, enlightened state. It bridges the physical and the spiritual in a very direct way.
Absolutely. So they're having this debate, and then the Buddha arrives. His response wasn't like a long debate back. It was very clear, very direct. He basically said, no monks, arahants do not enjoy sense pleasures. They don't indulge in desires.
Right. And that statement, it can sound a bit counterintuitive at first glance, can't it? Because we often think enjoyment means indulgence, means getting caught up in it. So it immediately makes you ask, okay, if they're not indulging, what is their experience like? How do you even explain that?
Exactly. And that's where the teaching gets really interesting. He didn't just leave it at no. He used these two analogies, simple but incredibly powerful, to paint a picture of this state of mind. Okay, the first one. Water on a lotus leaf. He said, imagine a drop of water falling onto a lotus leaf. It doesn't soak in, it doesn't stick, it just pools for a second maybe, then rolls right off.
Such a perfect image of non-adherence.
Right. And the second one is just as vivid. A tiny mustard seed placed on the very sharp point of an awl, like a needle. Think about that. Yeah. It's impossible, right? It just won't stay there. It rolls off instantly. There's no way for it to get purchase.
No purchase at all. And connecting that back, these aren't just pretty metaphors. They're illustrating something profound about the arahant's mind. The text mentions duodhopi kamo, basically, both kinds of sense pleasures, the ones coming from outside, like sights and sounds, and the internal ones, thoughts, feelings. And for the arahant, these things, nalipeti, they don't stick, they don't smear onto the mind, and nasantaiti, they don't settle down or establish themselves there.
So experiences happen, but they just flow through.
Exactly. It's about this deep non-attachment. The experience arises, it's known, but the mind doesn't grasp onto it, doesn't get mired in it.
Okay, so after giving these analogies, the Buddha then recited a specific verse, didn't he? From the Brahman-kava section. Yeah, in the core of that verse really nails it. Just as water on a lotus leaf, or a mustard seed on an awl's tip, whoever does not cling to sense pleasures, him I call a brahmana.
And that phrase, who does not cling, yonat lipati, is key. The commentary you mentioned clarifies it refers to not clinging upalipati or remaining sanhaiti in abantare dubehepikama, both types of internal sense pleasures specifically. So thoughts, feelings, desires that arise within, they don't stick. And what's really important here is how this defines a brahmana. It's not about birth, not social caste.
Right.
It's about this cultivated inner quality, this state of non-clinging. It's functional, not hereditary.
That's a huge shift. So let's bring this home. What does all this ancient talk about arahants and non-clinging mean for, us right here, right now?
Well, this idea of non-clinging, it feels like it applies way beyond just formal spiritual practice. Think about how we feel totally overwhelmed by information sometimes.
Oh, definitely. Information overload is a perfect example.
Or you're scrolling and you see something that makes you angry or anxious or even just creates this fleeting desire.
Yeah.
How often do those feelings, those thoughts feel like they're sticking, like you can't shake them?
They take root.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this isn't just about nirvana, maybe. It's about mental agility, about not letting every little thing weigh down your mind.
It absolutely is. It's about cultivating a certain clarity, isn't it? Being able to engage with things, information, emotions, desires, without being defined or controlled by them, allowing them to be there to be experienced, but then allowing them to pass through without getting stuck, like that water rolling off the leaf.
So it's an invitation, really. For you listening, maybe start noticing your own sticking points. Where do you tend to cling? Is it a particular idea? That notification ping? An old resentment? A worry about the future? What would it actually feel like to consciously let that roll off?
It's not about suppressing or ignoring, but changing the relationship to the experience, finding a kind of freedom in that flow, even amidst the chaos of modern life.
Just to round this out, the text notes the impact this teaching had right then and there. It wasn't just theory. It says that after the Buddha explained all this, using those analogies, many people in the audience actually attained different levels of insight, starting with stream entry.
Which is a huge deal in that tradition. It signifies a fundamental, irreversible shifting perspective, the beginning of liberation.
Right. So it shows just how powerful and transformative this idea of non-clinging was, even back then. Not just an intellectual concept, but something that could change people profoundly. So yeah, the core takeaway today really is that power of non-clinging, illustrated so beautifully by that water on the lotus leaf, the mustard seed on the needle point. Maybe a final thought to leave you with. The next time you feel that sense of overwhelm creeping in, maybe from too much news or a really strong urge, or just a thought looping in your head, can you pause? Can you just observe it, maybe understand where it's coming from, but without letting it stick? What would it actually feel like in your own mind to let it roll off? Just like that water droplet, something to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive today.